we have been chanting this efficacious, tremendous, powered Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And before we submit our evening prayer, let us once again look at a story of his Nama's glory. A very different story. In the ashram, in the breakfast hut, some time back, every day, the devotees would gather, and after offering food to Bhagwan, the morning breakfast to Bhagwan there, we would share the delightful leelas of Bhagwan in everybody's life. It was a celebration of his Nama's glory. It was a celebration of delightful leelas of Bhagwan. Every day. That we used to think it was the best time of the day. Now, there was one Vinod babu who had come to attend this breakfast celebration. He wanted to share an experience of his with other people. And he said, every year, in Tiruchendur, there is a celebration of Lord Muruga killing the giant Sur. It's called Sura Samharam, the destruction of the Rakshasa Sur and the other Asuras. It would be done in a very grand scale, attended by several hundreds of thousands of people. There would be no space at all for anyone even to enter at a certain point. Just like the ocean there, the waves of ocean, there would be waves of heads of people there. This boy wanted to attend that. So when he said it over to his father said, we have to observe certain regimen prescribed for attending such a function. We have to purify ourselves by observing certain regimen. So let's do that. Let us do this fasting and then chanting this Kanda Sashti Kavacham, a sloka which has to be recited several times a day, a sloka on Lord Muruga while fasting. So they had successfully completed this regimen, and then with Vinod Babu's uncle, the three of them pushed off in a taxi to Tiruchendur. They had entered Tiruchendur. Tiruchendur was already full of people, and there was a heavy policing around. But somehow, with the help of his uncle, who is working in the fire department, so with his help, they crossed 5 barricades. When they came to a place called Nayikinaru, they had to park their taxi. But then the difficulty started. The police there were very strict. They said, where is the car pass? Unless you show us the car pass, we cannot allow you to stay here. You cannot park the car. You cannot enter the sanctum. You cannot enter the temple. They tried, they begged them, they coaxed them, but all in vain. The police would not budge. So Vinod Babu said, we do not know anybody here. We do not know anything else except our Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Bhagwan, and his name. So we would resort to that. So they all started chanting this Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Jaya Guru Raya, with a fervent prayer. Bhagwan, please somehow reach us to the sanctum. that we should have a very satisfactory darshan there. Please help, please help. This was accompanied by intense chanting of the name for quite some time. And then suddenly, all of a sudden, a red-colored car came straight to their place. It stood next to their car. And then the window, the front window, opened a little, that they could see only a hand coming out. They could not see who was inside, but they saw a hand coming out and a voice accompanying it. The voice said, "Here is the car pass, take it." It dropped it. Immediately one of them, held out their hand, and then it dropped the car pass. And then what happened? In a minute, it disappeared. It just went away from the place. It disappeared, and Vinod Babu was wondering, how did it come? Because, that was Tiruchendur, attended by thousands of people and thousands of vehicles. It was a heavy traffic. In front of their car, there was heavy traffic of several vehicles. And again, behind the car, there were several vehicles. Their car was caught in the middle. They could not move forward, neither could they move backward. Even if the police wouldn't allow them, they could not go back. They were caught in the middle. In such a situation, how did this car crossed all these vehicles, appeared right in front of them, and dropped the pass with the command, "Take it," and then disappeared? It should have crossed all the traffic behind. How did the police allow them in the first place? Why wouldn't they stop it? What was more, when this car appeared there in front of them and dropped this, the police, all those police who stopped them, were there watching the whole show. There was only surprise in their faces. And what was more, they did not do anything. They did not stop the car. They did not say anything. They simply stood there watching the whole show. Even after the car disappeared, they only showed respect to these people, and with great respect, they allowed them to park and then move forward. So Vinod Babu was wondering what could have happened. We called out the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and Yogi Ramsuratkumar must have come in the form of the car. He must have been the hand. He must have been the car pass. He must have been the whole Leela. So he said, he ended up the description of this event with an added line. He said, "Amma, till today I have preserved that car pass because it came straight from the hand of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. It was not only the person who dropped it, and I think the very car is himself. And the car pass is again himself. And so I have preserved it in the puja room." And then they were allowed to go inside. They had very good darshan of Lord Muruga. Again, people gave them special respect. They had wonderful darshan, and they returned with such satisfaction. This would happen to us also. The Nama would fulfill our wish also, our prayer also. So let us submit our prayer at the feet of Bhagwan. We all have been singing the most powerful name of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. We all know there are countless beneficiaries who have been overwhelmed by the miracle of Nama, by the miracle of the ever attentive grace of the compassionate Guru, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Sri Yogiji always talked about his father's work, and he said, meeting people and blessing them is only a small fraction of my father's work. Most of my father's work is hidden. Even then, at least a fraction of this work must be to help people out of adverse situations. A wide variety of problematic circumstances, be it a deadly disease, infertility, tracing the lost jewels or persons, or starting an obstinate machine. Here is one more story of Bhagwan's Nama's glory. One Sri Harish, who was a student in an engineering college in Salem, used to attend the Satsangs of Professor Karunakaran. His father was a devotee of Yogi Ramsuratkumar. At his recommendation, this boy also started to attend, and he was greatly drawn to the divine beggar. He developed a great devotion towards him. By chanting his Nama and praying often, he developed an inner communication with Swami. After he completed his degree in engineering, he was blessed with some jobs in India here and there. But after that, before long, he got a job in a leading construction company in Muscat, where he was immediately put in charge of a big project to be completed in 8 days. It was a fast-track project with 12 sections. And to complete it in such a short period was next to impossible. It meant the activities scheduled to be performed sequentially have to be performed in parallel with careful and intelligent planning ahead, using compression techniques. However, he and the workers under him decided to try hard, and they started. The very first day, threw a challenge in their way. The pulling machine could not start. The technicians tried all they could, but the machine was stubborn. It would not budge even a millimeter. Harish desperately began to chant Bhagwan's Nama and prayed for the divine intervention. He took a chance, got the key from the operator, and tried his own hand. To the wonder and delight of everyone there, the machine started. The project was progressing smoothly afterwards, but when they were nearing the target date, the workers suddenly began to give trouble. They deliberately delayed the work in order to press their demand for higher incentive. In the work, Harish had to complete 3 more critical sections yet. It was a 12-section fast-track project. He was at a loss to know what to do. He became totally upset, returned to his room, and started to chant and pray vigorously, desperately. Soon, there was a knock on the door. He opened the door and welcomed the friend who entered. But surprise of surprises, a butterfly also flew in. He could not help wondering how a butterfly could appear in that desert at that evening time of the day. But then he knew instantly it was Bhagwan. It was his way of assuring him everything would be all right. He became very happy. And the next day, the workers assembled for work with their usual resistance. But they could not start the work because a heavy sandstorm began to develop and blow. It continued for 3 days. It upset the workers, affected their wages and incentive. On the third day, they came to his room and pleaded for the resumption of the work. They appeared ready to cooperate. The sandstorm also abated next morning, again to the surprise of everyone. How did it start? How did it disappear all of a sudden? No one knew except Harish. But the workers now were a changed lot. They began to work with sincerity and earnestness and successfully completed the task, much to the satisfaction of the management. Isn't it amazing the way in which Bhagwan controlled the technology by starting the machine, the nature by sending a sandstorm, and the psychology of the human mind, all to help a humble devotee? This Bhagwan and his assurance is also with us. We know how powerful is his name, and we have been singing his name for the past 1 hour and offered them at his feet. Now we shall make our evening prayer with the same hope, the way he helped a humble devotee working at different levels. His grace was also a fast-track project. So we would pray to him for a fast-track grace to extricate us from the present crisis. Yogiramsuratkumar Nama, we have been singing. Yogi Ramsuratkumar once assured the Sudama Sisters, you have been singing this beggar's name, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, which is equivalent to giving this beggar crores and crores of rupees. So, this is a great offering to Bhagwan, which would please him no end. At this juncture, we have to recall something about the grace. Sometimes God, when we make a prayer, God says yes and gives us immediately what we want. And then we celebrate it. We say, oh, this is grace. We got it. How kind God is. How merciful He is. Sometimes God says no and then gives you something better than what you asked for. It takes some time to recognize grace when this happens. Sometimes God says, wait. He does not say yes or no, but He keeps us waiting. The wait may be long and testing, taxing also, but still it is a definite grace, because at the end of the wait, He will give us the best. Not just good or better, but the best. So this is for a greater good. Sometimes we may have to wait. And in the waiting, so much of cleansing would also happen, which is what is going on in the world today. So remembering all this, let us keep on doing whatever we have to do, whatever is our part, chanting and submitting the prayer. Bhagwan,